So this week we're creating a design with no floral foam, and we're using a far more sustainable and environmentally friendly option. My name is Sharon, welcome to one of my tutorials. Today we're going to be using wire netting or chicken wire. There's no floral foam, so it's a far more environmentally friendly design. I've got this fairly small container. It's made of melamine. It's a florist container that I've bought from the florist wholesaler. But I'm going to use some supermarket flowers. I've got some ordinary Gypsophylia, which you can often get hold of either from the supermarket or from a florist shop. I've got some just standard carnations. This is a beautiful bi-coloured carnation. It's sort of a soft mauve colour with a bit of a darker edge, and I thought the darker edge matched quite well with my container. I have some garden hydrangeas, so this is going to give me a lovely base. And then I've got some supermarket asters. So this is the traditional aster, gorgeous texture and colour, and I'm looking forward to using them. So normally there would be water in the container, but because I'm tilting it forward to show you, for obvious reasons, I've left it empty. But I've rolled the chicken wire together so that I've got at least 3 sections to support the flowers. If I just hold this up for you. If you have a flat layer, when you insert the flowers in, there's nothing to support it and the flower stems will move around. If you have several layers like this one, then when you insert it into the wire mesh, you have far better support for the flowers. And if you've looked at any of the previous videos when I've used wire mesh, I do tend to end up with almost a semi-crescent arrangement. And I think that's a design and the shape that I really enjoy doing. So there's a good chance that this arrangement is going to end up in that like extended boat shape. I don't have any foliage with this design because I know many of you struggle to get hold of greenery to use in a design, but there is nothing wrong with you adding foliage in if you have it. I'm possibly going to start by adding some base weight and putting my hydrangeas at the bottom to cover my wire mesh, but there's nothing wrong with you starting with your taller flowers. Just adapt a method that suits you. So it's going to be a front-facing design, but I'm going to make sure that I have some weight on the front and the back. And I'm going to achieve that by starting to create some base weight. And by base weight, I mean some material at the bottom. If we were arranging in foam, that possibly would be some foliage. But that gives me now a front and a back, and it's nearly covered all of my mechanics, my wire mesh straight away, so I haven't got to worry about adding any materials in right at the very end. I often think that arranging in wire mesh like this is almost like adding things in layers. So we're starting with a base layer. Now I'm going to use some of the Gypsophylia as almost like a second layer and feed it through into the mesh. You can see that that wire mesh supports and holds the Gypsophylia into place. And for a moment, I'm just going to add 3 sections towards the base, so we get a lovely frothiness and a lovely softness on top of those hydrangeas. And then I'm going to work with another layer. Some of my carnations are already quite short because I've used them in a previous arrangement here for one of the classes. So I'm going to start with a couple of the shorter ones, not to waste them. I'm going to put them in really low. And that's again going to give me a lovely texture and a variety of colours there at the base. I think I've got 2 that are quite short and then 1 that's slightly longer. The carnations are supermarket carnations, and it's quite unusual to see a bunch like this in a supermarket. Carnations are easily available from a florist shop if you want to order yourself some. If they come in and they're quite tight like this, then they'll soon open. But if you want to encourage them to open, then just very gently use your finger and thumb to open up those stems and you'll get a much fuller carnation. They are of course a very long lasting flower one that's used a lot in floral design and one that I like to encourage beginners to use because it's quite robust and quite strong. So if you're learning floral design, carnations are an ideal choice because they will take a lot of handling. Right, now what I'm going to start doing is just bringing some material out towards the side. And you'll see with this one that ideally I would like it in this position, but it's not sitting firmly enough. It's starting to rotate and spin around. So I'm going to take it out and find a section within the wire mesh where it's going to support the head a little bit more. That's not perfect, and I'm going to anticipate that it's going to move as I'm talking and as I'm turning the design around. But I'm not too worried because as I add more flowers and the stems almost interlock within the wire mesh, it's going to support it, and I can turn and twist that head as we go along. Now, my reasoning for coming out at the side is because I like the shape of my container, and I think that I'm going to exaggerate that boat shape. But you know, you can go in whatever shape you like. And if you had a rounder bowl, maybe you could go more circular. But I'm hoping that I can use these carnations to come up along either side of my container. One of the benefits of arranging in the wire mesh is that you can take your flowers in and out. You can rearrange them. You can't do that with floral foam because you end up leaving quite a large gap in the foam, and then you can't put another flower in the same position. But you can do it with the wire mesh. And you'll see that they're starting to stand really nicely in the positions that I want them to go. Because if we wanted to go quite tall on this side and keep it flat on the opposite, but I'm anticipating coming out on both sides. It's a lovely colour combination. Now, if you don't have the hydrangea to create that base weight and to start to cover the wire mesh, think about using some bigger pieces of greenery. You could use some of the carnations lower down, so you could group more carnations there at the base. You could add softer pieces of greenery like trails of ivy in at the end, but as you build up the layers of the flowers, you will eventually cover that wire mesh and disguise it so you don't have anything too ugly to look at. Okay, so I've got 2 more carnations, and what I think I'm going to do with my final one is come a little bit taller on one side. It's not symmetrical, so we're not looking at anything to be perfectly balanced on either side. I've got to let the shape of the flowers speak for themselves, and I'm thinking that this is going to work better on my left hand side. Now, everything is holding quite securely into place. I like the lower level there in the centre, and I love the way the carnations are extending out either side. What I'm now going to do is to introduce the aster. I'm going to start again lower down on the base. What you do need to remember with the wire mesh is that the bottom section here is going to be filled with water, so you need to make sure your stems are nice and clean and there's no debris in there or anything that's going to contaminate the water. And I'm going to build up now using some shorter stems of the aster to start with. So shorter stems more towards the base. Again, it's like little layers sitting on top of one another. And I find this style of arranging really quite calming and relaxing. We're not concentrating on creating this perfect geometric shape. We're not worrying about it being a triangle or an oval shape. We're just making sure that each flower is clearly seen, so we can see all the asters. They're not squashed into a formal shape. They are all clearly seen, and we can appreciate all the different colours and the textures of the individual flowers. Now, when you're pushing the flowers into the wire mesh, make sure that you get it right down to the bottom of the mesh, to the bottom of your container. Otherwise, they won't have access to the water at the bottom of your container. So if you're doing very grand designs, and you can use the wire mesh in pedestals and church exhibits, You've just got to remember that you have to have that extra length on the stem, and you have to get it all the way down to the bottom. So this is working quite well. I don't think I'm going to need a huge amount of these lovely asters. And if you're here in the UK, or if you're a keen gardener, you will possibly recognise the aster as being an autumnal, sort of late summer autumnal flower here in the UK. It's a lovely long-lasting flower. I'm just trying to get a bit of height there with the final few pieces of my aster, and to enable me to get the length, I have to be able to find a stem that is long. Of course, with the floral foam, you've got the advantage of having some height in the foam, so you can sometimes make your flowers longer by inserting them into a bigger piece of foam. But I don't have that ability with the wire mesh. You can only create a flower design that's the same height as your flowers. Now, I am lucky with the asters because there is a slight curve with them, so they've really helped me achieve that outline shape, that sort of crescent shape. Now I'm just going to take a little step back, have a look at how it's coming together and see what areas need to be improved upon. Now I'm thinking that I need some more aster towards the front. I'm just going to keep echoing that shape, making my eye travel up towards the stems. It's not perfectly balanced or perfectly matching on either side, but it is a very elegant design. I'm really quite pleased with that. And if we think about those basic rules, we have height, we have width, and we have depth. It's a little lacking in the back section here. So now I'm going to introduce some lower pieces or some shorter pieces of the aster. That's going to help bring that colour towards the back, and it's going to help create that depth that I need. It's also going to balance off my container, because if I keep adding everything to the front, then it's eventually going to tip forward. Now at this stage, I think I'm just going to add in some more of the Gypsophylia, and you're probably all shouting at the screen. I got a tendency to call it Gypsophylia, which of course is the wrong pronunciation, but it's one that I've done for many years. I'm going to add this soft, delicate little flower. It's going to act as a transitional material, so it will link all my flowers together. I don't want to overfill, because then my design is going to look really cluttered, but it's going to give me a lovely floaty, soft, frothy sort of texture. And I think I'm done. So thin that bit out because it's a bit thick there. And I'm going to add some right at the bottom, and then we'll turn that round for you to see. What do we think? So no floral foam, nice, easy, calming and relaxing design to do. Don't overthink the shape that you're trying to create. Just play with the flowers and work with the shapes that you've been given. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, then please do so. Hit the notifications bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. Comment in the box below. I love to know where you're from, and I love to know what styles of flowers you would like to see me demonstrate on the YouTube channel. And I look forward to seeing you next time. So bye for now.